Test, test. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wait a few more minutes. So we need at least 4 members in order to have a quorum. So we'll wait a few more minutes. If not, then what we're going to do is we're going to suspend the meeting. Right, we won't have an official meeting. We'll just note it was suspended due to lack of quorum. But since you are here, we will just briefly go through the airport director's report. Right. If there are public comments, we'll open that up for if anyone has public comments since you've taken the time to be here. But just note that we'll have to do everything we can to figure out from the city attorney how we get those public comments officially to the members of the committee that weren't here, so that they can at least understand what your public comment was. So we're going to give it another 5 minutes, and then we're going to get started. The estimated time of the director's report is probably about 20 minutes, so we won't be that long tonight. Thank you. Yes, it's new. It's new, yeah. So what you have, you weren't supposed to get it, they were supposed to be for the other members, but since they're not here, you get it. So this is on occasion, the airport does have a strategy for self-promoting, marketing, trying to outreach, and this was this is the second one we've done. We've gotten high marks on the first one. This is the second one, and it's sponsored by Swift Fuels. This is a kind of takeaway for individuals that we're trying to get to invest in the airport. So one of the challenges that we have is developing an economic value proposition. And we've worked to develop that proposition as noted in that document and some of those items in there. So these are the types of things that we share with individuals that we're trying to court to come to the market, come to the airport in the marketplace, whether it be aviation related, commercial related, or, and very importantly, jet traffic. We're trying to get more jet operations here at the field. If our jet operations increase, we meet a certain FAA metric, and that gives us more credibility relative to our runway extension. So with that said, I am going to do the following. I'm going to first of all apologize that we're not going to have an official meeting tonight because we don't have a quorum. So what we're going to do is really just make this an informational session. There's no official business that will be conducted, but we are going to kind of follow along with it just out of respect for the individuals that are here. And what I'm going to do is we'll conduct a brief roll call, so at least we have a record of those committee members that were here. And then we'll go right through asking one of the committee members to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Then what we'll do is we will have any public comments that you'd like to make, and we're going to go right into the director's report and then conclude thereafter. So with that said, get a chance to invoke the walk of shame by saying EAA. County residents, that would be Glenn. 99s, be yet to be determined. On-field business, that would be Dave. Watsonville Pilots Association. Here. City of Watsonville. Here. And city business representative. All right. Larry, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, we're going to move right along. Given it's a suspended meeting, normally this would be what the chair would hold, but since we don't have a chair, and a couple of you are new here, I don't want to force it on you, so I'm just going to go by the list here. This is a time set aside for members of the general public to address the advisory committee on any agenda item. Please note, as I said, this is a suspended meeting, so there's no official business. Any item that's not on the agenda was published, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the advisory committee. No action or decision or discussion shall be taken on any item presented except that the committee members may respond to statements made or questions asked, and they may ask questions for clarification. All matters of an administrative nature will be referred to staff. All matters related to Watsonville Airport Advisory Committee will be noted in the minutes and may be scheduled for discussion at a future meeting or referred to staff for clarification and report. Any committee member may place matters brought up under oral communications on a future agenda. That's a key thing to note considering tonight's meeting, and the next meeting is in April. Any committee member may place matters brought up for a future agenda. All speakers are asked to announce their name, their address in order to obtain an accurate record for the minutes. So with that said, are there any oral communications or comments from the public? Now's your time to come forth to the microphone, state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes.
Doesn't work. Oh,
Okay, good.
my name is Matt Costello. I own.
Spell your last name?
Costello.
Spell it.
Oh, Costello.
Okay.
And I'm in escrowing a property on, off of Manfree, and I actually met with you about that. And I'm looking to move my yard out there just to park equipment. I don't want to build any buildings or anything like that, just basically just do like a 1 acre parcel on the Zone 6 part, just to store equipment and what have you. So I'm trying to talk to people and just, I guess everything I've talked about, it was zoned for that, or even more, I guess, building and what have you. But I'm just trying to get support from you guys and talk to each one of you guys to make it run smoothly, see what I have to do to just be a good, whatever word I'm looking for, but to make it work smoothly and get feedback from you guys. We got about, truck-wise, probably 8 trucks. And then with some tractors too, we probably about 9 tractors. Not too big, nothing too big. So basically it's a 6 acre parcel and half is Zone 3, the other half is Zone 6. I just want to stay in the Zone 6 area and just have a little parking area, just park the tractors there. We're only the guys are only there in the morning and then, the afternoon to park trucks, whatever. I don't want to put any type of buildings or any of that. I mean, if it makes it easy for you guys, I would even sign the paper saying I wouldn't build anything or put any type of, I don't have no interest in building at all on it. Just I can park my trucks and tractors and that's it. In the Zone 6 area, like I said, just, I'm an easy guy. I'll play with you guys. I actually want to get my plots one day.
Property off Manfree Road, though.
Yeah, it's on Manfree.
Yeah, which would be at the end of like
At
27.
Nordic Naturals, at the
9.
north side of Nordic Naturals, if I'm saying that correctly. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
So the Zone 6 part is towards Nordic Naturals, and the Zone 3 is, towards Buena Vista. So I would stay on just the Zone 6 area on that side. And so just here to see if you have any questions or, yeah.
Is it okay if I join? Okay. My name is Nick Torres, and I'm representing Mr. Casello on this transaction. I'm with Sherman and Boone Real Estate. We've had meetings with the city, Community Development Department. We've had meetings with the airport. We've had meetings with planning. Everyone kind of seems to be on board, but they said we should come to this meeting and, see if there's any issues that come up that we need to be addressed before we proceed with transacting on the property. There is a use permit process involved where we have to do some kind of legwork, and the city has already kind of given us support on what his plan is, which falls within the zoning of the industrial park district, which Matt is a paving contractor, so that falls kind of within the accepted users. So we were just instructed to come here and see if there was any issues with the use or what his plans were. Does anybody have any questions about kind of that? I assume everyone's familiar with that parcel, right? I've heard there's kind of a history behind it, but.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, you might refer to it as the old Lawton property, right? So imagine Nordic Naturals, it's going to be north of Nordic Naturals to the west of the current parachute landing area, right at the approach end of runway 9, outside of the airport property line in Zone 6, and part of it is Zone 3. So what will happen, since this is kind of a suspended meeting, the airport's recommendation was that they move forward with their process. You will receive a notice, because everything that's done in the airport influence area that's not in Zone 6, you receive a notice. Since their property is in part of Zone 6 and part of Zone 3, you have to, I'm obligated to give you a notice. So you give a notice, and then what will happen more formally is they will come back, but this time they're going to come back with someone from the city, right? It would be one of the CDD individuals, and they would make a presentation saying, hey, we've got this application permit, so it's really more formal. The purpose of this was, if it was a full committee, was to give them insight so that when it comes, they're not going, what is this? And if you had questions, because once again, it is going to be in Zone 3, now you've got basically 3 months to do whatever research you want to do. And then when they come forward again, most likely at the last meeting at the first meeting in April, which will be the last Wednesday in April, but my request would be that by then you're ready to go. At least, we're not trying to force you, but you be prepared, because There's nothing in the handbook or in the airport operations or the city's master plan or anything that we have that would allow us to deny you the right to do it.
Handbook that would allow us to approve or deny. That's up to the city. And just to clarify the Pilot Association stance, we have had issue with the city because it's our stance that they don't have authorization to approve anything currently in zones 1 through 6 because of the preceding and current lawsuits that are going on.
Other properties, you mean the lawsuits on other?
Yeah, that are currently in process right now. Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a weird, sticky, situation right now. As far as I'm pretty sure if I remember Zone 6, parking lots are totally permitted in Zone 6 as far as the California Airport Land Use, planning handbook goes. But the city has not incorporated that yet. And that is our particular issue, with the city right now, is they actually haven't incorporated those rules into their general plan. I really hope so. But
Yeah, so just a finer point, and this isn't to take issue with Ryan's comment. What the city, it's the airport's understanding that one of the challenges that the Pilots Association has is that the city has not incorporated an airport land use compatibility element to the general plan.
Right.
And so that's the challenge. And so what does that take? Well, the city is in the process of doing that. I just met in Monterey at the Airport Managers Conference. I just met with the consultant that's producing that. All right. They
are in the process.
Yeah. So there's the compatibility plan, just so we can get on the same page. Because, and in all fairness, this is outside of the airport's area of expertise. I'm not a land use planner. I don't represent CDD. I don't represent the Pilots Association. Our responsibility is being an agent to the city as a sponsor of an airport as part of the national airspace system. So we don't do land use. But what we do know is the airport land use compatibility plan is a good best practice from the state of California Caltrans, Department of Aeronautics. The city, as Ryan noted, has to have a general plan. They have a general plan from 2005. So it's not like they don't have a general plan. That general plan doesn't include an airport land use compatibility plan. One of the challenges that the pilots have is until you produce, and Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, until you, the city, have a general plan that includes an airport land use compatibility plan, then there's a question as to whether or not you can do any development in zones 1 through 6. From the airport's perspective, as we interpret the plan, our commitment is anytime there is a city proposed action in zones 1 through 5, we will bring it before the advisory committee. The reason we don't bring it in zone 6 is a couple of reasons. Number one, zone 6 is the least restrictive, the least restrictive of all the zones, and it is a huge area that reaches outside of the city limits. It's outside of the city limits, it's in the county, and we don't take it, it's our purview that the advisory committee, even though it represents the county, should be focusing on that. And so,
All of the zones, zone 6 is the one that.
well, no, that's certainly, that's one view of it. But there is an opposing view that says until there is a land use compatibility plan in the general plan, that there should be no development within any of the zones. Is that inaccurate?
Well, more specifically, that the city is not authorized to approve permits within zones 1 through 6.
Got it.
Oh, 1 through 6.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Until they get that handbook.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But
And that's from two previous summary judgments.
so the challenge for
Trying to
you,
enforce it. Yeah.
the challenge for you with this knowledge now, is to go to CDD and say, okay, I went and I spoke to him, and there's no debating his comment. We've given you the airport's perspective, and we've talked about it. But it's totally up to you, because as he noted, it's zone 6, it's zone 3, one's a parking lot. There's nothing, we don't see anything wrong with that. But until you actually do it and come before, you don't know what's going to happen. So,
What's your take on not a building or anything like it? Does that bother you guys with the parking lot?
Well,
Not a parking. Well, I guess I get
yeah, and again, it's not about any structures or building, building within codes and stuff. And none of that bothers the pilot association. Building proper structures in the proper zoning, around a city. It's a separate legal issue that we're having specifically with the city at this time.
So would you recommend that we postpone kind of what were our plans at this point? Because the last thing we kind of want to do is have Matt buy it and then, have it be contested for some reason, and then.
I see.
War against you guys. The last time.
Yeah, and we don't either. Like,
I like
trust
that
us.
use myself. I get a return on investment, and we like areas around the airport that are sparsely populated, and parking vehicles with a crew coming in for, say, an hour, other than an occasional maintenance guy that might be there for, a day. That's very light
impact.
intrusion in our
Yeah.
safety areas, and that's kind of a good thing. I like it a lot better than the two-story motel that's on Airport Boulevard.
I think it was like a 50-story hotel.
Well, some of the pilots enjoy having a challenge, but
And just to clarify, there would be required an office of some sort on that property. It would be, City of Watsonville has said there has to be some sort of structure, so his plan would be something like 400 square feet, single story type of deal. So it would not really impact anything. It'd be the same level as the vehicles that would be parked there. Right, exactly.
place for your tools anyway.
So, okay.
Well, good luck.
No idea when this general plan will be amended to.
you got to, once
Yeah,
again.
I think that you need definitely take that up with the city.
That's,
Okay.
yeah, and specifically CDD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And personally, the more pressure we put on the city to get their general plan amended,
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Do you know what the guideline in that new plan is? Like, is it 5-1? Is it going to add?
The issue is the 05 general plan does not have airport land use in it at all. Which is why we have issue with it. And there's 2 summary judgments against the city requiring him to do that. The 2005 plan, I think, was written in 1995. So right now they're working off a plan that's over 30 years old, right? And yeah.
And
So
in all
they
fair-
are working on it, though.
and in all
I know that
fairness-
they are working on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and in all fairness, no one's putting more pressure on the city than the city. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because the general plan is a plan for the development of a city that includes many more individuals and property and acreage than just the airport.
Right.
So please understand, it's not like they're dragging their feet. They went through to write a general plan. We just went through an airport master plan, and you're going to see that. It took us 2 years to do that, and it's just the airport. It's just the airport. To do a general plan for a city, I mean, this is not, I mean, pressure doesn't need to be applied to them. They understand. Believe me, they are working. So they've completed the RFP. A consultant has been assigned. They're running in multiple directions: airport land use compatibility, environmental, legislative, growth, numbers from the state, numbers from the federal government, tax base, economic considerations, financial projections, population projections. Where are you going to build? So this plan is definitely one that the city has its attention on, which is why I don't have anything to say about it. So you got to go to CDD, and that would be my. But you can say that you went through at least a supplementary information. You made your case. I would ask that I'm not saying you buy or not, But please consider coming back and making your case again when you have more data from the city.
Right.
We're not doing any type of crazy.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions?
No, I mean, let me just conclude, by saying the plan that you have for the property as it relates to compatibility with Zone 6 feels proper to me as far as the rules go and as far as I remember the rules for Zone 6. And so I don't think the WPA would have any problem with that at all. Again, our issue is with the city, not with building structures properly in zones. That's not what we have an issue with at all.
That's
Yeah.
not what doing to get you.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Guys, I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments from the public? Thank you for your time on that. So we're going to move right into the next item, and I need to see if I can. Okay, cool. All right, this is the director's report for January 25th, 2023. Next slide. The report tonight consists of 6 sections. We're going to give a brief financial update. We're going to talk about the status of 50 Aviation Way. We're going to provide an update on the aviation safety stand-down. We're going to talk about the gate card project and the 75th anniversary of the municipal airport, which is this year, and then we're going to give an update on the airport master plan. So over the last number of years, the airport has made a concentrated effort to be more transparent relative to our financial performance. As you know, the airport is an enterprise fund, and it must stand on its own. We receive no funding from the general fund. The airport is effectively a $4 million business. I wouldn't call it a mom and pop business, but it is a $4 million small business that is effectively a property management, fuel sales, and that is firmly rooted in one side being the city-owned property and the other side being committed to as a federally obligated property. So as you look at the diagram before you in summary, this is the end of the period for December 31st, 2022. So it includes a half a year. On the left side, you'll see the categories on the revenue side and the expense side. Next to that, you'll see the revenue budget. These are numbers that were approved by the council in 2021 for the 2020 for the 2021 for the 2021-2023 budget, and the expenses that were improved. Revenue and expenses, unlike the private sector, these are confirmed and approved by the council, and we cannot spend beyond the expense amount. If we do, we go into our cash balance. The revenue amounts, we drive the revenue amounts to exceed the expense amounts, because at the end of the year, those amounts roll into our cash balance. We can't increase expenses even if we exceed our revenue targets. So you'll see aviation storage units. We'll just use one over to the side of the notes. I won't take you through all of it, but you'll get the general idea. In the terms of aviation storage units, we said, hey, during the year, this particular year, from July 1st, 2022 until June 30th, 2023, we estimate that the revenue for storage units, in rooms, tied outs, and hangars, will be a little over almost $1.4 million. Coming into the year, you'll see that we are short on that. We're short about 40. We're 53% remaining. We would want that number to be 50%. So this comes from a number of instances. We do have a number of tenants that are in arrears. They don't pay. We charge late fees, of course. Going forward, we are going to have to determine some process, because we suffer when tenants don't pay their rent, and we don't have a documented process for eviction. And so we're going to have to consider how we go about that as we move into the future. If we drop down to fuel expenses, we sell fuel because we buy fuel. So we estimated that during the course of this year that we would purchase in the neighborhood of about 240,000 gallons of fuel in 3 configurations: avgas, 100 low lead, UL 94, and Jet A to the tune of $1.2 million. You can see that we've only purchased about half of that amount, a little less than half of that amount, and we have about 4% to go. So if you look at the revenues at the top, you'll see that we're short on our revenues where we expect it to be by about 4%. The rationale for being short on that revenues is, number one, we're in a period of time in which we're in summer and fall, or summer and winter, and in winter we see fuel sales decline, and we see operations decline, and we see various leaseholds coming in the holiday period many times, and then sometimes we've lost leaseholds. In this particular case, we certainly lost Pacific Air Care, and there were other leaseholds that did not renew. When we look at the expense side, you can see that we're 2% over. 2% over, number one, they were inflationary charges. We have seen our fuel prices increase minimally. They've spiked up. You will notice, remember the time we had $8 fuel prices, but it was $8 fuel prices because our prices had increased exponentially, and we can't cut into our margins just because the fuel prices are high. We have to pass those margins on. One of the biggest expenses that we had in the last quarter was the airport open house. So all of the airport open house expenses increased. The fireworks increased, things that we had to pay for the police and fire, because those are elements that we have to pay for. We don't get those gratis from the city because we charge the city when they use the airport, and they charge us when they use the when they use the airport. So, but let me just stop right there. That's just a summary. Are there any questions from the members that are here?
The eviction rules are in the tenant R&Rs, aren't they?
There's no rules.
I thought
in
there
there.
was an explicit eviction process listed out in the R&Rs.
It's not listed out in a fact that we're comfortable that we could defend, right? I mean, we would, if someone hasn't paid their rent in 6 months, right? I mean, we've looked at it from a legal perspective. We need to have a more defined process. To just say to Rayvon, you haven't paid your rent, we're locking up your hangar and everything that you have in there, that's not going to fly. We need a process that allows us to have, how do we negotiate, how do we work this? We don't want to be seen as someone that's just coming up and kicking people out. We've got to, it's just like we've done with the dilapidated aircraft. So an aircraft that's dilapidated and hasn't flown, right, before you go to a process in which your rate is going to increase, we give a 6-month process, and then we extend the 6 months, and we have been known to extend another 6 months. The dilapidated aircraft over by WAAC, they've been there 5 years, since 2008, and we're 2018, and we're just at a point right now where we're going to auction them off because we tried to take a prudent process of working with the individual, talking to the individual, being ghosted, being avoided, not getting payments, because we just didn't want to. We wanted to make sure that we had all the bases covered, and it takes time, and it's got to be documented.
Just when I was getting used to those.
I understand.
I kind of want to just keep them there now. They're a fixture.
When they leave, when they leave, the WAAC people will be very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions? One thing that I will note is the quarter end balance of $272,000. The last, for those that are keeping score, last October that number was $275,000. So it's like, well, why is it $3,000 short? We've been looking at our cash flow, because that was a question I had to our accountant, is surely we had a good month, and the idea was, yeah, we did, but we had a number of unexpected expenditures that hit us. The crashing of the 340, when the 340 crashed into the hangar, it cost us $16,000 to make it safe. That was $16,000 that's got to come out of Sam's budget for other maintenance things, but we may still want to do that. Right, we ended up having to, some of the payments from the special events rolled into that quarter. So we were fortunate in that everything we made during the quarter, we pretty much spent the profit out.
At 340's insurance?
That's a statement that I would like to pass on, because I'm part of the NTSB investigation, and I like to hold off on that. Any other questions? Okay, let's move to the next slide.
Since we're talking about budget, if it's appropriate for this meeting, I know it's a suspended meeting, UL 94 sales?
We are.
Can we comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to order our next load tomorrow. This will be, since July, this will be the third one.
Yeah. And I'm particularly asking because of the fuel price of the drastic difference in fuel price with the UL 94. I know you've been trying to
No, it's-
empty the current
No,
tank.
well, yeah, we have, and the price went down and went back up. So I don't think we're gonna see, UL 94 is that much more expensive at the wholesale level.
Oh, it's not just because we
Look
bought it
at-
when the prices were up.
The best way, I will say this, and I'll say it in the public, the best way to look at us is look at, for UL 94, is look at Dan DeMayo and San Carlos, and Eric at Reed Hillview and South County. And you will see that as of today, our prices, UL 94 prices are lower than theirs.
Really?
Yes. Just go to AirNav.
Okay.
It's posted on the website. But what we have seen, correct me if I'm wrong, we've seen avgas prices, and what we've done is we've always, since 2013, we have the price of avgas and Jet A for every day in that year.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
receive
yeah.
the price, and so we track it. So we've gotten very good at seeing seasonality and what goes on, and events like the recent thing in Ukraine that happened in February just threw our model crazy. So what we've done is we focused on maintaining a fixed margin. So we're going to go up and down just so we can maintain that margin so we can meet this. It's just good business sense. But what we've seen is avgas prices have begun to drop substantially from 8.15 to 5 something now. What we haven't seen is UL 94 prices have remained relatively flat.
Right.
And if you compare our prices to San Carlos, San Martin, and Reed Hillview, I think you'll see that we're lower because they are FBOs. So I mean, we're trying to stay at the municipal level because our profits are going to come from other things. They're not written hangers. They're not, right? They're not written leaseholds.
Yeah, no, that makes makes sense. Yeah.
All right, next slide. Okay, this is a quick one. So we had a RFP for 50 Aviation Way. Their lease ended on December 22nd. We went out to an RFP. We went through this process. This was shared before. And I guess it's kind of good that Dave isn't here, but he already knows it. Next slide. So Gary Air is they were the ones that had the best response to the RFP. So what we're going to do is we are going to enter into negotiations with them for them occupying the space at 50 Aviation Way. Early returns from Gary, Dave, and Trish are they're looking at a new, bringing something new to the field, which was one of the elements of an RFP, potentially a service station for turboprop aircraft. And so they had a very persuasive argument based on an avionics shop, which means that we'll have multiple competition on the field. Bringing potentially turbine repairs. That's something kind of new on the field. When you look at the key areas, 3 is a good number. Specialized Aviation, United Flight Services, and another maintenance facility. I mean, turboprops, pistons, helicopters. It gives us a very good, for lack of a better term, product mix. We're kind of distributed, and it gives us certainly an opportunity to sell more jet fuel, which is one of our most profitable products. So we haven't started discussions yet, but we hope to start them next month, and we'll go from there. Okay? Any questions? Okay, next slide. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the FSDO and the FSDO will be conducting a pre-planning meeting for a proposed safety stand-down in the spring of 2023. This pre-planning meeting is a FAST team-led effort with operators on the field, CFIs, the DPE at Specialized, the FAST team representative, the airport, and we're all coming together to try to define what would be the elements of a safety stand-down held here at Watsonville to bring to mind, or to bring to the forefront of mind, challenges relative to entering the traffic pattern at a busy general aviation airport with multiple types of operations going on. Fixed wing takeoff and landing, multi-engine takeoff and landing, helicopters takeoff and landing, parachute jumping on the field, student pilots, air taxi operations, military operations. Watsonville is in fact a crucible for various types of operation. So what they want to do is they want to come in and they want to have this discussion about how do we communicate to pilots something that for most of us will be viewed as, hey, it's a traffic pattern entry, but they want to take it a step further to focus on situational awareness. A piece of this that I'm pleased to share with you tonight is the NTSB, as part of the investigation piece. I shared this with them, and they want to be involved. So you may be seeing something from the NTSB relative to this also. What happens, this meeting happens, and then out of that meeting comes some date in the spring in which the idea is to try to get as many pilots as we can to a meeting, hopefully on the field, and then they go through this presentation that talks about how we as pilots can improve our situational awareness, how we can be attuned to this, and strategies and tools that we can use. Questions? Okay, well, that's the plan. We hope we can pull it off, or they can pull it off. Okay, the field access upgrade timeline. This timeline has shifted, but now we're moving into a point in which we're in the winter of 2023, and we're going to be conducting a survey with tenants. It'll most likely be a Survey Monkey type scenario. A link will go out, right? It'll go out via the email alert blast. It'll go out to in your statements. And what we're going to do is we're trying to ask some questions relative to how what the user interface is, the preferred user interface, and questions where we have a preferred user interface. We want to get thoughts on what the pilot community thinks about this preferred user interface. And right now I can tell you it's most likely going to be card keys. So we're going to get that survey data. We want to review that data and develop a high-level framework because we've already applied for the grant, and it's our belief that sometime within the next couple of months we're going to get a grant award letter. Once we get the grant award letter, we've already vetted what we think it's going to cost because we went out and talked to consultants. Then we're going to go out to bid for it, and what this means is the 4 pedestrian gates will now have card key access. The 13 man gates will also have card key access. Whether it's two-factor identification, meaning you have to know something, you have to have something, is something that we're going with now. So it's not just I've got a card. You have to know something, you have to have something. So know something means a PIN or something that's that you would most likely only know and that you wouldn't share with someone else. And then have something as a device, something that would allow you to have access. Rationale behind this is we, to this day, have individuals that have access to the field and come on the field and just look around. And we've seen that and we've noted that, right? They're just on the field looking around. We have vendors that come on the field looking for things to do. We have people coming on the field looking to sell stuff. And we want to control who enters the field. There should be a limited amount of people that enter the field. And it starts with the tenants. So if you're a tenant, all right, well, yeah, well, there are tenants that know tenants or spouses. Well, we can deal with that, right? Because once again, once we know who they are, we know who's on the field. So we'll be working through that. Our goal is to hopefully to have it in place by July 1st. That's when we'd like to roll it out. But it could slip until next year, but that's what we're looking to do, because from the difficult part is not so much the technical implication and the loop detectors and drilling it. It's going to be setting the expectations with the community. Because one of the things that we're going to do in order to get this card, everyone's going to have to take driver's training. So there will be a driver's training online course that you'll have to take in order to get the card. The card will not just be given out just because you're a tenant. We're going to use this time to refresh our permits to make sure that every tenant here, we have a signed permit, right? So we're going to use this to kind of get our own technical and bookkeeping in place and to make sure that we can say everyone that has a card took driver's training. So now when people are speeding or there's an accident that happens or something, we're able to say, hey, the individual took driver's training. They signed up at that point that they were capable, because it has come to our attention that we are sadly lacking in that area, and we want to address that. Any questions? Not in recent time. No, I'm not looking about going back. I'm looking about going forward.
I'm just hoping we can come up with a system that doesn't require us to get out of our cars.
Well,
But,
I mean,
I
well,
can't tell you,
the way the gate. I mean, if you look at Reed Hill View or you look at Hayward, because that's what I mean. Sam and I got in the plane. We flew to Tracy. We drove the Reed Hill View. We're not making this up on our own. I mean, they're Palo Alto, and what we found is that we went to these other airports. None of those airports have just a 4-digit code that you come up and enter into.
Santa Cruz Yacht Harbor has a tiny fob.
Mm-hmm.
You walk by the gate and for tenants only.
Mm-hmm.
And they have kinds of ways of locking you out, like, I sublet last year. So it was, from this date to that date, and after that date, the fob doesn't work, but they told me, don't ever throw it away because they'll charge me another $75.
No, there's
It's keyed to me,
Yeah.
so they know when I go onto that area.
Right.
So if there's a problem, it's like, where was your fob? How
Well,
did
that
happen?
input such as that is going to be
So-
valuable. So when we go through the survey, you'll have a chance to put that input in because we don't have all the
There
answers,
is
and that's why we want to do
technology
that.
out there that.
There is.
Is not like these garage door openers.
Correct.
Where if you know
Correct.
there's quite a few of those garage door openers out in the community as well.
Correct. But like with any new,
So I didn't understand factor. So you'll have the card and then you have to do something else,
like maybe a PIN number.
but not something else too. It would be a card and then something else.
Yeah, like
Okay.
the PIN number is something else,
Okay.
right? And so the idea is, once again, we're not doing retina scanning or things like that, or fingerprints, or at least not yet, that we know of. But we're trying to look at all the technology. There's technology that can be on vehicles. There's technology, we're not using voice technology. We don't, because it's very expensive.
Well, I like the iPhone.
So,
Just
so we
look
want,
at it and
well,
boom,
the challenge with phones is now we got to get into city IT, right? And we're already trying to leverage the IT from the water center and from the police department. So we're trying to keep it cost effective. Even though we're getting a grant, we can't get $1 million system. So we're trying to do something that's secure, reasonable relative to access, not intrusive on the tenants, but allows us a confident understanding and belief that a person that's on the field is allowed on the field.
Have we seen at other airports? Like, do they use two-factor?
I think Reed Hillview does. I'm not sure.
Salinas?
Salinas, I don't think they do. I believe Palo Alto does.
Salinas just has
Please, afford.
they just have
numbers.
four numbers, right? Yeah.
But I think they're moving to cards. They were out here recently surveying our hangars. And so, but it's my belief Palo Alto, Reed Hillview, South County. No, but I believe that they're moving to, because of the UL 94 change, right? But we're seeing it more and more around airports. Okay? All right, next slide. So the master plan process, as you saw, the first slide started with an award in August of 2020, July of 2020 for $550,000. The process is a phased approach, and as you can see, each of these kind of chiclets lays out various elements. We are at the end. We're beyond the draft. We're in the final narrative and the final ALP. It's my belief that we will be submitting these final narrative, the final ALP, and the final draft of the airport master plan, which the advisory committee had 3 members that were on the pilot review committee, by the middle of February. Next slide. The next slide shows the various elements. So that one was September 2020, and we lost time in that area, in that period of time, because we got close to the end, and it was very clear to us that we needed what's called a CEQA determination, the California Environmental Quality Control Act. If we didn't do a CEQA element of our master plan work, then when we finish the master plan and we bring it before the city council for adoption, they would not adopt something that didn't consider the California environmental portion. The FAA paid for the national. We found out that we had to pay for the CEQA. It was 120 grand. So it was 120 grand that we had to budget for, and we had to stop a minute to make sure that we were good. We were. And so right now we believe that we will have a final adopted plan coming before you guys for review, right before it goes before the council, hopefully in April. So we'll be giving you, hey, here's what we're giving to the council in April, and then our expectation is the council will be approving it in May, June at the latest. Okay, next. So we had the benefit of, I guess it was a benefit, it was a challenge, of hosting the president's visit. This is a plaque that was given to the airport. by the Marine One Squadron for their for our support at the recent open house. I mean, not the open house, the recent presidential visit. Next slide. Okay, I think there might be some slides missing in there, Sam, because we didn't talk about the. Go back a minute to the very beginning. Let me see. Let me see. Send down. Oh, okay. I know what we're missing. Go one more. All right, the 75th anniversary. That was it. So the 75th anniversary, and I want to take a moment here to just thank Ryan. He's one of the individuals that's been in discussions with the airport, and I want to thank him for his really just showing up on the calls and having some good ideas and some good input. It's been very much appreciated. So in July of 1948, the instrument of transfer between the United States government and the city of Watsonville occurred, in which the airport was turned over to the city. So that means that July of this year, it's 75 years since the airport has been run by the city. So last year, this was brought up to the advisory committee that, hey, we want to do something, and we think we should do something, we the airport. And we went through a time period in which we really didn't get a lot of traction, but most recently we did. And the idea is to have an event not in July of this year, but in September of this year, along with the airport open house. So there'll be more details that this will be coming up. The individuals that are here now and the individual at the table can share that we're looking to provide a survey going out to people to say, hey, here's what we realize it's an important event. Here are some things we'd like to do. What do you think? If we did this or if we did that, what do you think about it? And so we're looking at a number of options, and we hope to have something out to you soon. And with that, that concludes the director's report. Any other questions? Well, unfortunately, kind of like subbing in as the chair, unless you have something else. No. All right. Then I can't bring new things to the table. No, you cannot. But if there were any questions, but if this is what you can say at the next meeting. This is what can we make sure that we add this. So let me ask you guys if you have any things that you'd like to make sure that we cover at the next meeting.
So two updates. One, if we could get an update as to the potential FAA grant violation.
Okay. Well,
right, that was brought up a couple meetings ago. Mm-hmm. If there's an update on that. And then second, okay. If we could get into the next meeting, I'd like to revisit the plans to use the escrowed Pajaro Valley High School settlement, the escrowed money that we can use for improvements. A few years ago, I think we actually had a conversation to use it to get rid of to bury the power lines.
That's that stuff underground. So in order for us to go in and remove those poles and trench those poles and provide power to the homes in that area is in the neighborhood of, we don't know, but it's a lot of money.
And more than $100,000.
A lot more than $100,000. Okay. And so the idea is that's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to try to get a grant for it. So if we can get a grant for it, and let's say it's $1 million, which it could be, the $100,000 covers our portion. So what we want to do is, Sam and I are trying to figure out a way that we can cost it out, put it in the ALP, apply for a grant, let them know that we already have the money, right, and be able to apply that to it. Because one of the earlier,
And of course, we bring this up specifically because of the accident.
absolutely. No.
Perfect use of those funds.
When it happened, we were out there, because one of the earlier thoughts that we thought we were gonna use the funds for were trimming the trees on the approach into 2-0. I'm sorry, 0-2. But we've already spent tons of money trimming trees on our own, because we were able to identify trees on airport property. We gotta take care of them. Identify trees in the city off airport property. City residents have to take care of them, right? And we've identified trees off airport property in the county. County residents have to take care of them. So we've been able to get that agreed to by all of the players, because in the past, the airport was cutting those trees, and we can't afford to be doing that. So that's the plan that we have, and we wanted to not use that, because in addition to that, we were able to convince the FAA through the master plan process that the DA for the runway to RNAV, the LPV, was too conservative and overstated by 48 feet. So you're gonna see the RNAV DA drop by about 48 feet. All right, and that's a good deal. And we're still trying to negotiate with them to have the missed approach, instead of turning toward the west, to the left, to have it turn toward the right, but we're getting pushback on that. So these are all good things that happen as a result of the master planning process, and honestly, having pilots on that from the review committee to help us kind of sort through these. But clearly, you can share with them that it's our plan that those funds be used for that, and we're using that accident now trying to escalate the process. But it's a priority, and we may end up having to move it up. Any other questions? But we can add an update to that, the underground power poles, to next time.
Yeah, let's talk about it next time.
And the FAA violation update, yeah, because I think we may have some data on that. All right, well, if there are no other questions, thank you for your time. We're adjourned. Thank you for attending.